Alright, you guys, here are my top 5 baits for the summer this year, and you'll be surprised by probably all 5 of them, except for one. Alright, so first on the list is going to be none other than the crankbait. So in my hands right now, I have a square bill tied on. Well, I did. But I have a square bill. I'm using that to run through the stumps. Here in East Texas, I live on Rayburn, so everybody knows Rayburn is full of stumps. Either rocky shoals, things like that. There's also, that we also have. During the shad spawn, these work really well. Right now we have the shad spawn going on at Rayburn. That's why I like to use a shallow running or a square bill crankbait. If I know of any deep water areas, I like to throw a deep diving crankbait, preferably like a 10XD, something along those lines, so I can really get down deep in any fish that have pushed off, that are trying to feed again, or try to use them for any fry garters, that are still hanging around. We're pretty late in the year now, so probably won't be having anything as far as fry guarding goes, but that's why I choose the crankbait as one of my top 5 baits for the summer. Now, starting with number 2, as I was saying, with the shad spawn that we got going on, or basically any of the spawns that are going on outside of the bass, I also like to use the jerkbait. Jerkbait is one of my top favorite baits I've ever used in my life. I've won some money on jerkbaits. I've placed very well with the jerkbait. This one that I have tied on, I believe is I don't remember, it's called a Stella. I can't remember the name. It's a really fancy, old school jerkbait that I used back when I was living out in California. But you can kind of tell the pattern of the baits that I'm using. They have the green top here, a little bit of a darker top. This one's got about like a beige, dark green, and just a little shine in the middle, because that's kind of obviously shad that we have spawning here. This one obviously has the rattles, full rattle here. It's a heavy rattle. You can get jerkbaits with a lighter rattle. That also works well, but during the shad spawn, a lot of the bass here, they love to school up in the middle, secondary arms or any points like that, and they pull up. And you chase down these things, and the jerkbait is your best friend at that point. It gets right in there, keeps it right in the water column where they're going to be at. And by far, I've caught more fish on bass schooling than really I've used a jerkbait any other time. I know a jerkbait's kind of more of a colder water deal. It's still great then, but I love it in the summer, especially when they're schooling up on and feeding on shad. That's my number 2. So number 3 on my top baits list is, and by the way, these are in no particular order. They're at random. I'm just picking them off my wall with my rods that I brought in. So my number 3, it doesn't have to be this specific swim bait, but I use the Zaldangerous swim bait from Bass Mafia. Let's see that one. So I use the Bass Mafia swim baits. This thing has really great head shake and tail shake. It doesn't roll. I don't use the line through, just kind of a personal preference. I like to rip it through some weeds that are on the ground, and it's a lot better at bouncing off some structure. But this is also really good if, let's just say, it's a little later in the summer, the shad are kind of done with their thing, but not fully done yet. It's really good for when the bass are out roaming or getting a little deep, but especially when it gets up close to any of the timber, things like that. But notice that the trend is all moving baits, right? I rarely ever throw during the summer anything that's still like a worm or a Cinco or anything like that. I'm always throwing a moving bait. I use a swim bait majority of the time around trees, where I know that they're kind of hiding out, waiting for ambushes. That's where I'll usually throw a swim bait. It doesn't have to be anything this big. Sometimes I'll throw like a little 3.5 inch, 3/4 inch Kitech with a little weighted hook the same as this. That works great too, but I prefer to throw, obviously, the big girl to catch the big fish. Again, these are in no particular order, and I will give you guys what rods and reel setups that I use that suit the baits I'm throwing. So, anyways, that's number 3. Off to number 4. By the way, number 5 is going to come to no shock to anybody that knows me. I think I throw it any time of the year, all the time, 1000%. But let's save that for last. So, number 4. You can kind of hear it. A popper. Topwater popper. Now, some of you are going to look at me crooked and wonder, well, Jake, why the hell don't you have a frog tied on? Well, let me explain something to you real quick. Frog works great. not where I'm at for some reason. Well, at least not for me. I've tried using a frog here at Rayburn. Doesn't do the trick that I wanted to. But this right here is one of the top baits that I use. It ignites. And when I say that it ignites some topwater frenzies or bass chasing these schooled up shad that are spawning, dude, right up on the shallow spots is the best time, best area, early morning, late afternoon. When I say late afternoon, I'm talking 5 o'clock, 5, 6 o'clock at night. Basically dinner time for us, or wind down time. That's when I'm throwing this. Personally, one of my favorites, especially when I see some schooling bass. All of them are kind of schooling up after all of these, after all the shad popping up, busting on the water. Throwing one of these for sure. Topwater popper is one of my favorites. Actually, you know what? I shouldn't say this is a popper. Popper works great though. This is more of like a Zara spook, right? It's more of a spook. I had this one tied on today just to see if it was gonna do anything. But a popper or a spook, I love doing it. The rattles on the top, the sidewalking or the walking the dog. It's one of my favorite things to do, and it catches a lot of fish too. So that's number 4. Now, before I get to number 5, I'd really appreciate it if you guys already went ahead and liked the video. I'm finally back. I'm no longer on my hiatus of 2 years, not giving you guys anything. I'm not going back to the tournament trails that I know of yet. But I really appreciate if you guys hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, comment down below what your guys' favorite baits are for the summer, and tell me if I'm going crazy. Tell me if I'm going crazy with these. This is what works for me, obviously, on my home lake of Rayburn. Comment your top 5 favorite baits you guys use during the summer, and tell me where you guys are at. I've been all over this damn country, but I'd love to know where you guys are at, what you guys are using. So, without further ado, number 5. Now, this should come to no shock to anybody that I'm throwing this during the summer. Okay. It's very popular right now. You guys might have heard of it. It starts with a C, I think. I don't know. But, yeah, you guys are so dead wrong. If you think I'm throwing a ball of fur, you're wrong, okay? It's a damn chatterbait. The chatterbait is where it's at. I love the chatterbait. Point blank and period, especially during the summer. I've thrown this thing everywhere. And I mean, like, all the way out to Pennsylvania, all the way down here to Texas, all the way out west, and Washington, Oregon, California. I've thrown it everywhere. But the summer, it gives me chills. Summertime chatterbait fishing, there is nothing like it. Now, I prefer to throw the Z-Man Jackhammer or the Evos. I also really love the OG chatterbait. As you can tell, I'm very biased. I love the Z-Man chatterbaits, no matter which ones they are. So I use a chatterbait mainly around all the timber around here. I like to get it real close to the timber when I'm casting it. I like to hit it. I like to drop this thing down in the middle of the road beds that we have. And when Rayburn has grass, I'll be ripping this through the grass. Another thing to use, obviously ripping through the grass, is a rattle trap, but that's not the conversation we're having. We're talking about summertime baits. So, a jackhammer or an Evo, slobber knocker, a whatever, any kind of chatterbait, that is what I will throw. So, the tails that I use on a chatterbait, they're not paddle tails. I like to use I believe they're called the hog snatchers. I don't know if you guys can see this right here. But they don't have a paddle tail. It's just a little dangly thing here, and that action, no paddle tail, but this action, it goes everywhere. But I have this Evo tied on with the chrome nickeled out blade, so you can tell it's kind of got the indents and everything on it. But this is the one that I throw. This is the one I love. This is my top summertime bait. Will always and forever be a chatterbait. Really imitates that shad spawn really well. You throw it in front of them, they want to eat it. Like I said before, I was going to give you guys the rod and reel combos that I use. So for the chatterbait, I am using a 7-foot medium heavy, okay, paired with a 7-to-1 or 7-1-to-1 gear ratio reel. I'm using my custom rain shadow rods and the Baits Salty 150. One of my favorite reels to use. But that is what I will use for the chatterbait. For my spook or topwater, not frog, but spook or poppers, hellraisers from Z-Man, I will be using another, like I said, I'm always using my rain shadows. But it's a 7.3 heavy, extra fast tip. Just you can get that whip going. The reel I'm using to this is just a 7.1 Salty Hundo from Baits. Again, one of my most favorite reels on the planet. You combine a Baits reel with a rain shadow rod, it's game over. You don't want to touch anything else. Okay, point blank, period. I know I've said that a bunch, but listen, it's true. Okay, for my jerkbait rod, I am using a 7.2 medium fast tip. I actually use a 8-to-1 is what I use for my jerkbait. I like to work the jerkbait really quick, really fast. So 8-to-1 gear ratio reel. I'm currently using the Daiwa Tatula on here, but I will be switching it off to probably a Salty Baits Salty or a Hundo. Probably bring it down to a 7-to-1, but an 8-to-1 is great on this. And like I said, it's a 7.2 rain shadow blend or rain shadow rod. This one is the Immortal. It's a really great rod, phenomenal rod. Really good tip on it. Really good at just whoosh. Can I get a whip sound in there, editor? Me, put a whip sound in there, please. Okay, and for my crankbait rod, I am using a 7-foot medium, extra soft tip, extra fast tip with the Baits Hundo on here. This combo alone is just it is so light, it's stupid. I mean, the balance is also ridiculous. So this is the combo I will always use for any crankbait. Obviously, square bill, shallow dive, this is the one. The deep diving crankbait, I will use the same rod blank, which is the Judge CB, but I believe I use it in a 7.2 medium heavy with a soft tip. I will run a Goat Swim reel for it. It's a 200 series, 200 spool, so it's really good. And then I believe the last one now is my swim bait. For the swim bait, I'm using a 7.6 medium heavy fast tip. That's for heavy swim baits. If I'm gonna throw a Kitech, like I was saying earlier, a small Kitech, anything like that, it's gonna be the same thing as the crankbait rod, that 7.2 medium soft tip thing. But yeah, so for this rod reel that I have on here, it's the Baits Goat Swim 200. It's the same one that I use on my deep diving crankbait rod. Just really launches that thing out there. The gear ratio to it is a 7:1. Majority of these are all 7:1s. Actually, frankly, all of them are 7:1s, except for that Daiwa that I used. That Daiwa was the 8:1, but I will be changing that out to a Salty. So, but that is going to be my top 5 baits for the summer. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns, frankly, with what I use, drop in the comments below. I'd love to know what you guys' thoughts are. Like I said, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, tell me what you guys think, and please, 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 let me know what you guys are using for your top 5 baits for the summertime. Obviously, we're pretty early here. By the time this is out, it's July. So, oh, and happy 4th to everybody. Celebrating 250 years of freedom.
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops. God bless America. And gentlemen, start your engine!
All right, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. See you guys on the next one, huh? Later.